What's up, guys? Panic here, otherwise known as Panic Picnic, and today I'm gonna ask a question and I'm gonna answer it to the least to the best of my abilities. And I want to know what you guys think down in the comments down below. Is Overwatch dying? Is it going to die? Is this game that is on its second anniversary? Is it dead? Is it dying? And I have a couple unique theories and a couple unique answers to that. And let's go ahead and get right into it. Well, as you can see right here, I did open, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic second anniversary of Overwatch. As you can see right here, this was actually opened in my first legendary loot box, and that is the new Doomfist legendary. As you can see, it looks absolutely fantastic. You don't get anything fully with it, like you don't get any fully motions, but you can see that it looks, I really like the sleek formal look. Here you can see it more up close. Let's go ahead and throw a little bit in the light. But in answering the question, is Overwatch dead or dying, I have to say yes and no. I'd have to say it really depends on what you're talking about in terms of the long term or the short term. In terms of the long term, is Overwatch dying? The answer is no. Not just no, but hell no. And the main reason why is because they're like Blizzard as a developer is constantly updating the game. They're constantly adding new characters, they're adding new skins, they're adding new loot boxes, they're adding new events, and all of this is great. All of this completely leads to the long-term longevity of the game as a whole. And I think that's amazing, and especially with this game going on for 2 years, it's gonna have a very long shelf life with it. That being said, in terms of like the short term, I feel like the game is to an extent slightly either overstaying its welcome or is kind of dying. And granted, a lot of these situations can easily be remedied. Now, granted, I'm not saying I have all of the answers. I'm saying there are at least plenty of options that Blizzard can take into account of what they can do. Now, the reason why I'd say short term why it's dying more than anything is I have to say really the lack of variety. And this really does this really does fall mainly to Blizzard, and this mainly has to do with them just having an immense quality in the output of the games that they put out. In other words, and like especially like if you look at the dive meta we just came out of, it lasted really long because we're not getting any new characters. That's really what's just gonna fully change the meta. It doesn't really matter about maps or anything. I mean, this game I could easily compare it to StarCraft, where it's like StarCraft as a whole is a balanced, like I'm going to talk about StarCraft 1, by the way, StarCraft Brood War. It's an immensely well-balanced game all the way up to the pro play. All the way up to the pro play. They know what's good, they know what's bad, they know different builds, there's different varieties. And really, the game is now balanced more so not on Blizzard going in and tweaking things, but it's being balanced more so on the maps. Now, I think Blizzard should definitely take a long-term and a short-term approach in trying to at least accomplish that. I'm not saying Blizzard is going to easily be able to fix this because it's a lot harder to balance these type of games that revolve around multiplayer rather than in 1v1 scenarios, as in most of their games are. And this really is their first competitive-based game, like with the comparison of with not comparing like team-based like StarCraft 2, because that's not what the game is balanced around, or even competitive World of Warcraft. I mean, there's nothing, you're not really balancing it around that. I mean, yes, to an extent it's more of like a PvE or PvP based, and they've got two different development departments on that. And yes, it's going to be completely hard with hero based, and even shooter based it's quite difficult, at least in my opinion. Now, that being said, the reason why I say it's dying really in the short term is it feels like we're not getting a lot of variety. It feels like in the short term it's like we're like a drug addict. We're waiting on that next big fix. We're waiting on the next big thing. This thing that just happened right now, I mean, we just got Brigitte, and I mean, in my opinion, she's pretty fun to play. But then you look at it and like, well, what did Brigitte do? Like when she was added, well, she took out a lot of key characters. I mean, even right now that we're looking at more of a triple-based support system, sometimes in ranked, and in more of the competitive based. And that is a completely different approach comparatively to the dive, or more faster paced. So it's like now we're just stuck more in a slow based build that we have going on. It feels like, man, we want to speed things up, and we really just have to wait for Blizzard to release a new character. I mean, even the new maps that are coming out, even the new map that I've already played on, it's fantastically designed. It's really fun to play on. But that being said, it still suffers from the same aspect of it's a lot slower. It's like we're in a slower based meta, and we have to wait for a new character instead of a new map to shake things up. Another big thing that, in my opinion, also really hinders Overwatch is really the map selection, like the map pools. That I know they don't want to divide characters, but I completely did. I'm gonna ult this. Oh, screw it. Who wants to die? You do. Woo-hoo! Boom! That's what you get for ruining my leg. Artisanal photo. That being said, where the heck was I? That being said, it's more like based around like characters being changed. The maps really don't change. Like even if you look at StarCraft, like I know I'm comparing it to Brood War, but that's the game I know. If one map could easily make one build better than the other, and this one it doesn't really matter the map picks more than anything. It's like a play style. Another thing, short-term wise, that I think this is really the biggest hindrance for me. I'm not sure how everyone else feels, but for me, it's almost a struggle right now to watch the Overwatch League in terms of a long-term and a short-term competitive-based standpoint. And the main reason why is even though they have released new characters, the maps, like the competitive season, like the competitive areas have already been figured out. Like we get Gibraltar, we already know the team comps that are going to be on it. And the only reason like certain characters are going to be picked up more than others is just be like, well, we're out of options. And I think this is a little bad design in my opinion. If I know every single watch of Gibraltar, Gibraltar map, if I know the teams on both sides, it's just like, well, who can play a better sniper? Who can play a better X? Who can play a better Y? I'm like, I kind of disagree with that, especially since the Overwatch League is on a past patch. They're still back into a dive comp. They're still back into a previous patch before certain characters have been released or certain buffs have been initiated, and I can understand that in terms of a competitive aspect. But it's so difficult to watch when I know what's going to happen, and it's like even though we as a community have moved on into a different rank, the competitive season hasn't. It's like I'm watching a competitive season with a patch that was done maybe like 3 weeks ago or a month ago. I mean, it's kind of difficult to like, well, why are they doing this? Well, I already know what that team is. Oh, well, let me guess. It's going to be the exact copy of the offense team, and that's really what it is. And in my opinion, it makes things a little bit difficult to watch because it's like every single thing is a little bit more repetitive, and I kind of disagree with that. Another thing that stands out more than anything is, like, I will be honest, I have no real way to answer this next one, is in the ranked mode more than anything. Ranked mode, in my opinion, is just not fun to play, like, at all. Like, for me, I really love quick play. I really love the atmosphere that they have designed around quick play, and I wish they would kind of put that type of feeling into it. And again, I'm not sure if it's more of like my psychological thing, or it's more of a personal thing, or if it's more of a community based. But quick play is really you just go to have fun. You just go to play Overwatch, and you go to win, of course. But in ranked, it's like it's just not fun. You're either being matched with poorly placed teammates, you're matched with poorly placed comps, you're matched with poorly placed absolute everything. And what I mean by poorly placed comps is you're having someone launch an attack with a Torbjorn, and you know it's not going to work. You know he's not going to switch off. I mean, yes, of course, I do love Blizzard's action into this issue as to avoid a teammate, but in my opinion, that's not really that good. It's not a step, in my opinion. It's not a step. It's more like it's more like a tiptoe in the right direction. I wish we could get a bit more of that, maybe like to avoid certain teammates. Not only that, but maybe to avoid certain maps. Like, I've spent a rut where the only thing I've played for literally a week straight is 2CP. Do you know how boring 2CP is? Do you know how a pain in the ass 2CP is? Do you? It fucking sucks! Capture the flags where it's at, boy. And well, not this one, but payloads maps. It's either that or you're gonna get stuck with payload maps. And you know what? 5 days straight of ranked in payload maps fucking sucks. Like, there should be an option, like, in StarCraft. I know, like, even in StarCraft 1 or StarCraft 2, you're given the option to just ban maps. It's like, I don't want to play on those maps. Like, for me, I don't like playing on Oasis. Oasis, for me, is every time I play that map, I don't know what the fuck to do. I, honest to God, don't know what the fucking hell to do on Oasis. And I do apologize for cussing, especially for my younger audiences. Screw it, no one watches this anyways. But it's like, what am I to do? It's like, I don't like playing Oasis. I don't know what to do. It's like, for me, the only person I know how to play really on Oasis is Mora. And if Mora's picked, well, it's like, I know for a fact I'm going to lose because it's like, I just don't know how to play the map. Basically playing... This is what it feels like to play 2CP fucking 5 days in a row. Come on, spawn so I can fucking... Just Kaplan! But it's like... It kind of sucks. And I wish they would, like, I would say they could definitely add more of a, like, a banning on maps. Another thing I think would make things a lot more interesting. I know Overwatch is more about a flex-based game. I think a captain's pick, even if it's not in R-ranked, I think a captain's pick in terms of, even if it's just banning one character. I think, even if this could just be done in an arcade mode to try out, I think that would be really fun. Like, if, let's say, Tracer, for instance, is just, like, the bane of the meta, just ban her. Or something like that. Instead of just outright, or if Bridget is just the pain in the meta right now, just ban her. I mean, or if it's just a pain. So that means every game you're going to be playing is going to have a whole lot of variety, instead of just playing the exact same character over and over. Another thing this would completely prevent is this would well, yes, it'd only be, like, maybe just one hero. You're like, well, that eliminates the whole host of what Overwatch is. It's about flexing the game. I completely disagree. By just banning one hero, you're still having a whole host of options you can play as in terms of heroes, but also what it allows you to do is it allows you to ban, like, those characters that you know for a fact are really just going to absolutely throw the game. Let's say if we're in, like, we start the match, and we're like, let's say Hanzo. If we take Hanzo, like, let's say 6 or 7 seasons ago, and no one liked Hanzo, just ban Hanzo. All the Hanzo mains have to pick one other character. That means it at least allows them to at least have a little bit of variety. While yes, this does hurt people who do main one character, there's no guarantee that your character will be banned every single match. And in my opinion, that could add a lot of variety to the game. Like, let's say for one day we just ban, let's say for one of my games, we just ban Reinhardt. Like, for both teams. Like, both teams cannot play Reinhardt. Well, guess what we're playing now? We could probably play Dive Comp. Let's say we're banning Winston. Guess what? We're playing Reinhardt Comp or Orisa or something like that. I think that could add a whole lot of variety to the game. Another thing I think should totally be done, this is more of an ability to counter both tank and dive comp, as well as pretty much anything really in general. While this could definitely have a little bit of problems revolving around buffing or nerfing, and I mean, at least it's a little work for Blizzard. Let's be real. I mean, it's their game. They've got at least to work on it a little bit to keep people interested. I think a thing they should do is they should have 2 or maybe 3 different armor values. I mean, we know they know how to do it, and again, I'm going to reference StarCraft or even World of Warcraft. In StarCraft, for instance, they have armor values for that's just a normal base armor, light base, or something with heavy armor. Well, if something that only takes increased damage does increased damage light, it just does regular damage. So instead of doing, let's say, 20 damage, it'll only do 5 damage. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is I think Blizzard should implement something like this in terms of certain based weapons or certain characters in the game. For instance, let's say Bastion, instead of doing, let's say he does 400 damage a second. instead of him doing 400 damage a second to just one person, he could do 200. I know these are just numbers I'm throwing off the top of the head. He could do 200 base damage to a person, and let's say 600 damage to just shields. So in other words, people with shields, they'll do an increased amount of damage to shields. So it's kind of like an RPG based, or you're at least giving some sort of stat. In other words, Junkrat, for instance, he may have been a problem, of course, but instead of his explosives doing, let's say, 75 damage to both regular health, armor, and to shields, he can do an increased damage to shields and an increased damage to armor with a lower base damage of, let's say, 50. Like he could do like 100 or 125 to shields and armor with a lower base against just regular health pools. I think this could definitely add a lot of variety as well. It could definitely change the comp. So instead of, let's say I've got a Reinhardt with a 2000 base shield, I know I have to get rid of that shield. It makes Junkrat a much better rock. It also makes it more of a rock, paper, scissors base. I have a Junkrat. Guess what? That shield is completely gone. They need to add some variety. Another character they could change into instead would be a different hero, like Winston, who has a higher health pool and less armor. So the Junkrat wouldn't be as effective. Again, his bubble might not like it as much, but again, that's an idea that you could use. For instance, Tracer instead of might not do the best against armor or shields, she could do better against regular just health-based heroes. Doomfist, for instance, could do well against armor and maybe health as well, because he's got a giant fucking fist. Might as well make fucking use of it, Jeff fucking Kaplan! Ah, I don't want to play 5 fucking CP in a row! I fucking hate 5 CP in a row. Ah, 5 CP! And this is for making me play fucking... what is it? It's for making me pay payload. Oh, fucking 5 times in a row. Ah, hate that shit. Oh my god. Like I said, adding a lot of variety to both map picks in terms of banning, adding at least a little more, in other words, to summarize everything, in other words, to fully fix Overwatch, in my opinion, and to make sure it is not a dead game, as it is slowly could be becoming right now, I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon at all. Like, Overwatch is not a dead game. Blizzard has made that obviously clear that this is not a dead game. Granted, we don't have the stats to fully back up everything, but we know it's not a dead game. Blizzard's fully backing it up. But things that they need to do to fully get the game fully moving is they need to maybe implement banning on maps or onto specific characters to add at least a lot of variety to the game. They could even change certain aspects of maps. For instance, Gibraltar might still be Gibraltar, but the map itself is just changed only slightly. The same could be said for like Hanamura or basically any map. Just basically modernize the map as well, instead of just constantly releasing a new map and hoping that'll fix certain problems. A little bit of variety can go a long way. Also, like I said, you have a giant, vast amount of community people to test it, since we're all playing Overwatch anyways. So, bans for both characters and for maps would be a huge step. Again, increase variety. Don't let me play 5 CP 5 times in a row. Don't let me do only payload. I hate that too. Again, add at least a little bit more variety in terms of the ranked matches we're playing. Add a little bit more of, like, I really like the steps that they've already done, like I said, to continue to focus more so on matchmaking as well as in ranked. Take not just steps for just allowing for just avoiding his teammates, but maybe banning some characters. And really just keep doing you. I mean, like I said, Overwatch is a fantastic game. I really enjoy it, but I really like a bit of variety, or something to just change the game that's only just slightly minor. Even like just changing weapon values or just giving them different stats. That being said, my name is Panic Picnic. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope this was at least slightly entertaining for you. I have no problem with Jeff Kaplan or anyone else on the Overwatch team. In fact, those guys are awesome for making such a great game. That being said, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next video. Hope to not play 5 CP. Boom! Bye!